You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Today's episode is brought to you by The Sound Parcel. What's The Sound Parcel? Well, The Sound Parcel is a new gear rental service. And what they do is they have a bunch of interesting and really cool gear. For instance, I recently got to try out the Montreal Assembly Count to 5 through them, which I had not experienced before. That thing's a trip, by the way. And they made the process really easy. The website looked great, was easy to navigate. You just pick the items you want to rent. You pick how long you want to rent them for. And they send them to your door, complete with a prepaid shipping label and a whatever package you need to ship it back to them. And at the end of your rental period, you get a little notification email. You just throw it in the provided packaging, put the label on it, put it in your mailbox, and boom, done. You just got to experience a whole new crazy thing that you may not get to experience anywhere else. So check them out at thesoundparcel.co and enjoy. This podcast is also brought to you by Sinusoid. That's right. Those dudes up in Seattle, the guys that are making the really awesome custom cables with the 100-year warranty. Speaking of the 100-year warranty, I want to make a quick comment on that. I heard on another podcast that 100-year warranty may or may not be great for vampires. Due to my second career as a Blade-esque vampire killer, I can't really comment on how the undead would react to such a cable. But what I can tell you is that this is the perfect cable. I'm holding it in my hand right now. I'm telling you, this white sinusoid coily slate cable is the perfect cable for your average dinosaur enthusiast. If you're a fan of Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Velociraptors, maybe even the occasional, maybe even throw in an occasional Ice Age creature. This is the cable for you if you are a fan of any of that stuff. So go check them out, sinusoid.com, and you'll be glad you did. Hey guys, just one more quick note before we start this episode, just to give you a little bit of context for what's going on here. What happened was Robert Keeley came to town. He wanted to just come and hang out for a little while, and we were just talking guitars, talking pedals and whatnot, and I was like, hey man, why don't we just throw a mic up in the middle of the room while we're having this conversation and see what we catch for the podcast? And he was like, oh, absolutely. So that's kind of what happened. As you guys know, most of my interviews I conduct remotely, so this is a nice change to actually be able to sit down and have a real conversation out in the Tone Cave with the guy. And so yeah, we just threw the mic up in the middle of the room and we chatted for a little while. So hopefully you guys enjoy this talk, and on with the show. I'm just gonna roll this thing. I don't know why not. Make it easy. But
so I think I officially became an honorary Portland musician.
Nice.
Yesterday. I went to Chris's place and put my down payment on a Monarch and a Vinny.
That's so awesome.
I'm fully absorbed in the Portland experience.
It's that his amp is something that I can't get away from it. I just love it. I've played this thing for a couple years now. It was my first boutique amp. Well, technically it's my only one that I own right now. But it's I compare everything else to it, and I love it so much. And then the Vinny, of course, I'm going to be super biased on.
Yeah.
I don't know if Chris.
Tell me why.
Because that Vinny number 1 over there is named after my son. I commissioned the first Vinny. Right? Yes.
How cool is that?
I told Chris I didn't want, I just wanted something just kind of whatever, just a toy basically for my son that matched my Monarch. And he was like, well, if it comes out of my shop, it's going to sound good. And so,
yeah, no kidding.
So he worked on it for like 3 months. He did all kinds of circuit revisions and stuff before it was done. It may even been longer than that. And then finally he did the last circuit revision today. He told me to come pick it up.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed when he plugged it in and plugged the Vinny into the Monarch, and I got to play that. I was like, wow. And I think he alluded to doing some possible combination of the two in the future.
Oh, wow.
He thought that was kind of fun, and I fully endorsed that.
Yes.
But I didn't want to wait, so I got on the waiting list now. You know what I mean? I said, well, give it to me separate, because that American-British switch on there sounds fantastic, and after you take a look at his wiring in the shop,
oh yeah,
you're just, it's all there. So
yeah, it's he told me like on the phone a couple weeks ago, I was like, he's like, sometimes I'm worried that people are gonna think you're a shill for Benson. I'm like, I just legitimately like him that well. It's just I'm glad that you're gonna get one. I think you're gonna like it a lot.
There's only one shill, and that's Roger Williams. He works for everybody. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Roger Williams is the shill for all companies.
Yes.
He works for all of us. He's on everyone's payroll, and that's why he wins all the prizes all the time.
Well, of course. Of course, that's why he always
we
wins.
already know that.
Yeah. I mean, his board is almost all you except the Pelotar, it looks like.
Right. Well, now other companies are starting to let him win. You
right.
know. I think he won maybe a TC something, and I think he won that. What's that? All Stomp? There's some kind of pedal that you can configure to be any modulation or delay. One of anything. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's
wow.
a silver thing.
I haven't
Very
seen
cool.
that.
I want to say it's like a Zoom product. Maybe he'll correct us later on.
Okay.
I think it was pretty cool, though.
He's in my Facebook group. I'm sure he'll tell us what he has.
Yeah. So, man, you got a great wall of guitars here.
Well, thank you.
Tell me about that Weiland one, the one with the Weiland strap.
Oh, that one. That is a. Let me take a look. So, that one is a Roni Paramore.
Yep.
It's 7-string tuned up for just drop A right now. It was kind of my first adventure into the baritone / extended range, kind of thing, and it's got these awesome pickups in it. By there again, there's a lot of Portland representation in
I
here.
love it. This is the Portland show. Man.
Yeah.
This is great.
Those pickups are made by a guy called Ken. Oh my gosh, he's gonna shoot me. I forgot his last name. But he makes Roadhouse pickups, and those are his slugbuckers, and they're the only humbucker that I have to roll the tone knob down on. They have so much high end, and I mean that in a good way. They're like super defined and super sparkly. We can play it here in a little bit if you want.
That's
but
great.
it's they're crazy how much sparkle is in those humbuckers.
That's great. I like the way the guitar is constructed. It's like natural on the back, and then black up top.
Yeah, that was kind of one of Paul's things. He liked doing it, and for some reason, this guitar was, he wasn't known. I mean, he's recently went to work for another guitar company, but at the time he wasn't really known for heavy music guitars like what that is. And so, I was just like, well, I'll give it a try. I've never had a guitar like that.
Is this another one of his guitars? Is blue, like Supro meets F-hole type thing?
Yeah, that's his Oceana.
I love that too.
That one he did. That one he did for me specifically. I got to figure out the color scheme and all that stuff, and that also has Roadhouse pickups in it. They're not. They're not humbuckers. No, they're kind of like the Supros. Those are actually single coil pickups in it. And they sound really good. And that's one of only 2 gold-plated Masteries.
Oh, really? Yeah, I see that now.
Yeah, the Paul had that done when he was working down in the Cower shop, and so it's like me and a guy named Jimmy Jr. are the only ones that have gold-plated masteries at this
Oh
point.
man, that's awesome. And it's sitting on that, it looks like Lake Placid blue.
That you nailed it, Lake Placid blue.
I love it.
Yeah, I've got inspired by a Gretsch I seen on Instagram that was Lake Placid blue with gold, and I called Paul. I was like, I know what color we need to do now.
I had a Camaro once that I painted that color because I'm so in love with it myself.
Oh, nice.
So, man,
we're going to have to go in the garage. Speaking of Camaro, I'll have to show you that.
Cool. Cool. So, we're, in Oklahoma, we've got several effects pedal companies.
Right.
You know, some of them, you know, had some sort of crossing or starting with Keeley Electronics. They went on and did all kinds of great things on their own. Tell me about the history of Portland and guitar effects. I mean, who might have been around in the late 1990s, for example?
Boy, you know, I'm not
start
really.
A little bit later than that.
I think it started a little bit later than that. That people can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I got into it about the same time that some of the companies started. I think, which is probably mid to late 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So like Mr. Black's been around I think since 2011. Sub Decay, they're not technically Portland, but I think they started right around the same time. We consider them a Portland brand.
Sure.
They're in the neck of the woods. Maleco's been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
I don't know with Maleco which started first, the synth stuff or the guitar pedal stuff.
Right.
I'm probably not as well versed in the history of the companies as I should be because Jack finally has talked himself into coming on the show, so I'll get to pick his brain a little bit at some point.
He's a good historian.
Yeah, he'll know. He'll be able to tell me a little bit more, but like it seems like the Portland scene kind of all came about like in the mid to late 2000s versus the 90s.
So Catlin Bread's been around for a good long while, and then is Debbie Ever part of that thing? And
Debbie Ever's a strange one because I don't think anybody, as far as I know, I could be way wrong. I don't think anybody knows her.
But based out of this area?
Yeah, she's in this neck of the woods. I don't know. I don't know what she's up to. Like I don't. She does not really. She doesn't like come to, you know. I don't know, like events
functions or something.
Yeah,
like
I don't. Yeah, so I don't really know what's going on with her. But
so I saw a couple other ones that were back there from the Portland area. What were some of the other ones?
So we got, speaking of, let's make a big Benson commercial. Chris Benson is teamed up with Steve over at Synthrotech, who does like modular synths, and they have some pedals under the Harbin Audio name. So that's one. Spaceman is another one.
Harbin was Chris's. Spaceman, who's that run by?
His name's Zach. There again, I've only talked to him via email. I don't really know. Yeah. I don't know the history of that company either. I've tried to hit him up 2 or 3 times to get him on the show. But
we're gonna get him on. We should get him on here one of these days, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
So what else?
Let's see. I might have to make my way over to the cabinet.
Tell us about Peloton.
Well, yeah, there's this whole podcast becomes another Pelican Noiseworks commercial on a regular because Leon's one of my best buds, and so I don't know if you know the story behind that thing at all.
No, so the first time I saw the pedal, I was standing with Bill Finnegan of Klon,
right?
And we all know how distinctive the case is for the Peloton,
right?
And at that point in time, what's your buddy's name?
Leon.
Leon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Leon wasn't there, right? This is the Summer Nashville now?
Correct.
And Bill Finnegan was looking at that thing, and at the time he didn't know what it was.
Right.
That it was too fuzzy in series or something like that. You know, maybe he can correct me, but Bill Finnegan's eyes were wide open trying to figure out, like, I can't even believe this. And then I heard people from all directions kind of going, it's not what you think. It's definitely 1,000,000% not a Klon. And it's a great fuzz. Then my guy started trying it, and Atlee and another guy tried it, and they were just like, man, that thing sounds awesome. And then Roger Williams has been pushing it around. Is awesome. And so now I'm needing to get one myself now. Yeah,
we can make that happen for sure. Leon, he's on vacation right now, but I'll talk to him when he gets back, and
that's cool.
We'll make it happen. That company I know a lot about.
Okay.
Like I said, Leon's one of my best friends, and I'm sorry, Bill, the Peloton graphics were my idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Leon he's very, like he works with electronics in his day job, and he's very smart with that stuff. And when he gets into something, like, he figures it out. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys. And he wanted to do a pedal, but he didn't want to do just like just another, whatever pedal. He wanted to do something interesting. And so I just called him up. I said, well, I don't know what you're going to do, but you should probably do a fuzz of some sort. And I tried to talk him into doing something easy, but he doesn't bite for that.
Right.
I said, but, it'd be funny, because at the time it was just like, there's a clone, there's a clone, there's a clone. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let's make it look like a clone. And when people plug it in, it's a gnarly fuzz. And he was like, yes, that's hilarious. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
So then this is one I know a lot about, so I can actually talk about it. It's two fuzzes, like you said, and they're actually in parallel. The one side is kind of like a Big Muff, and the other is more like this vintage flavored. I'm not really sure what that is, but it sounds really good. But they're two very different,
wildly different fuzzes.
Yeah. The gain is fixed on them unless you want to pop the back and mess with the trim pots. So they're just maxed out all the time.
Wide open.
Yeah, and then the gain knob on the front is actually a blend, and it blends it from all the way left is the vintage flavor, all the way right is the more muffy style one, and anywhere in between is some mix of the two.
Yeah,
and the tone control is wired normal on one and backwards on the other.
Oh, wow.
So when you boost the highs in one, you're boosting the lows in the other, and vice versa.
Isn't that cool, man?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different... He just wanted to... His thought was, if I'm going to put a fuzz and I'm limited to this 3-knob layout, I want to make it as versatile as I can with those 3 knobs. And it became one of my favorite fuzz pedals.
Yeah.
So it's that, yeah. That was a fun thing.
I'm looking forward to it, because I only got to hear it through the din of a million other pedals at the NAMM show, you know. It's us making noise with something, and Old Blood was next to us, and 30 other fuzzes going on.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So what do you think? What do you think is in the Portland water, or for that matter, the Oklahoma water, that spurs this type of environment?
That I've actually talked about that a lot. I had You've been to Old Town Music before?
I just went there yesterday.
Yeah, so Hank there was on the podcast here recently, and we talked about the Portland scene in particular a lot. And I'm not sure what it's like in Oklahoma, because I haven't been there, but Portland has a ton of musicians and a ton of bands. And it's just, I think it's some more technical guys, mixing with the, very rich music scene. And most pedal creators that I know of are also, they're not just like technically smart, they're creative people too. And so that is another outlet. And so I think there's so many creative people in Portland that some of them are bound to be technically savvy also, and that's just another outlet. I just feel like it has to do with a robust music scene around here. I don't know what it is. What's it like in Oklahoma?
Well, sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you can't really see what the big picture looks like. I don't know that it's necessarily a higher percentage of, say, musicians. There's a wealth of musicians there, of course. There's lots of creative people there, but I don't know if it's a larger percentage. What's interesting about seeing the effects pedal world from my perspective here in Portland is it seems like Portland has this extraordinarily active desire and community that treasures crafting things, whether it's beer and so I can see the definite craftsmanship and the desire to make an interesting new product and stuff like that. So I don't know what propels that community in Oklahoma, but there's lots of them. Because it's weird, because when I was flying up here, I was thinking, wow, there's lots and lots of effects pedal companies, which means I don't know at least 3 times as many as the amount I know. But wait a second, why isn't, Texas with 27 million people have effects pedal shops everywhere?
Right.
And why is it, states like Oklahoma and Oregon with 3.8, 3.9 million with an abundance of them?
Yeah. I wonder
there's
that
Durham Electronics in Austin, and I think I'm about done naming Texan effects.
Formerly Mojohan.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
That's there again. We're probably gonna get a bunch of emails.
I know. Please do, because I don't like being ignorant. So fill me in.
No, it's exactly. But I don't know very many Texas pedal companies either. You pretty much those are the two that come to the top of my mind. But honestly, from like you were having a perspective on Portland, having a perspective on Oklahoma, and it's not true for everyone, but a lot of it seems to stem from you. So,
yeah, but I sometimes wonder what my placement is in there. Was there an effects pedal company before me? I don't know if it was an effects pedal company, but there was a brilliant operation, and I think it's pronounced Paya, P-A.
That sounds familiar.
And that brilliant guy did all kinds of kits, drum machines, little synth things, effects modules, rack stuff, and that was stuff like around the Craig Anderton type era, where there's like a book and maybe a company doing sound kits, not many. I'm not a historian again. And believe it or not, they're like less than a half a mile. Like one of their offices is less than a half a mile. I never see anyone there. I just see the sign up on the door.
Right.
And maybe something in the parking lot. I know they have an office now down in Texas, but then R.G. Keene, I don't know how versed you are in some of the early stuff that was on the internet in the 90s and early 2000s, but R.G. Keene published a bunch of articles on the technology of the tube screamer, the technology of the neutron, the technology of the phaser and stuff like that. So without R.G. Keene who went to school in Edmond at UCO, graduated from there as an electrical engineer, and so I know those two guys, that Paya guy, whatever his name is, and then R.G. Keene kind of coming from Edmond, Oklahoma as well. But no, there wasn't too many,
Right.
So I don't know.
What made it like we talked about kind of the history of your company on the first time you came on. I'm wondering what made you want to even put out a compressor in the first place, because that wasn't really a thing.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't thought of that a musician could just. I mean, you were an engineer too, so you understood it. But what made you want to do it in the first place?
Yeah, so I was a fan of the group Fish with Trey Anastasio, and I heard this pretty amazing compressor sound, or it captured my ear and imagination. It was through a humbucker, and the Ross compressor doesn't really take humbuckers too awfully well. It gets overly compressed, and but that was part of the sound. This overly compressed, two tube screamers, they're compressed,
right?
And what you end up with is like infinite sustain. Any note he plays, he can just let ring forever. And I thought, well, I got to try that. I really got to do that. And so I got the schematic online, made a couple changes that I had seen, and built one. And when I heard it, I was through a Telecaster. I was like, oh man, this is amazing sounding. This really is something worth listening to. And I couldn't believe how fun it was. And so I was like, I'll use the extra parts I have here to build one to pay for this one, and I'll sell it on eBay. And literally overnight, it was like a 2-month back order. I had no intention of going in business to build pedals. A couple of years prior to that, in the mid-'90s, I was wanting to build Fender Deluxes, 5E3 circuits and basement circuits. And I'm kind of glad it didn't work out, because the whole tweed amp thing in the 90s was full blown. Yeah. And that would have just been another, come along.
Yep.
Or whatever you call it. And come lately, I think. And so the effects pedal thing, I hadn't even built a fuzz face. I just went straight to the Ross compressor.
Right.
I started a fuzz face and never found any transistors for it. I built an analog delay and a tuner before that in 99. But for school I built a digitally controlled analog delay and had a built-in tuner. It was about a foot wide, 6 inches deep.
Where is it?
I think I lost it in a divorce, but Jacob's seen it. Jacob Adams. He's seen it. It has this like 10-key input on it, like a phone, and you could dial in the amount of milliseconds.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it had this big, huge toggle switch on it. You flip it and put it in tuner mode. And, it wasn't a very good tuner, but it was still pretty cool. And my teacher at the time that approved the senior project was like, he was a guitar player, like a surf guitar player. So all I had to do is bring in like a 67 blue Music Master and a little Pro Junior.
And he was like, all right.
And he was like, you got an A already.
Yeah.
Even if this thing doesn't work.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I mean, I guess, you know, if I'm thinking about the people that were running around the shop in the mid-2000s, or like 2007, 2008, we were going gangbusters. We were doing huge money. We probably had, Jacob can correct me, but we had probably had 28 people working for us. It was pretty big. And it felt like magic because everybody was giving us great reviews. Everybody was using the pedal, from Steve Vai to Joe Satriani, Brad Paisley, all these people. Compressors were flying out the door, you know, $800 to $1,000 a month. And so it felt like magic, and it felt really simple. So sometimes I think, to answer your question, some people, I think, came to the company, saw how fun it is to make music, music gear, relate with musicians on a level that you might not have the chance otherwise. If you're just a guy, what's your chance of meeting Ryan Adams or John Mayer or something, or Steve Vai? But if you're in the pedal business and you have some ideas, you know, then you can find yourself in the music business then, you know, meeting people and helping make music. So I think the magic then inspires people to start their own companies. Right.
They're like, well, we want to do this is a similar thing, but we have these ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that was really what I was thinking too, is that I know a lot of those guys, you know, and you know, well, Jacob specifically, I know really well. And it's just like, I think it probably was a big inspiration. It was like, well, we could do this too for ourselves and do, you know, weird stuff or like what. Yeah. And then,
hey, speaking of that, you know, Brady Smith used to work for me, and I mean, I wasn't doing too good at the time, but I remember every time I talked to him about ideas, he always seemed a little, say, off, and I didn't really, you know, get any of his ideas. So every time he'd suggest something like, hey, you know, we should do videos. I'm sure, I don't know how many times he said that. I'm sure he said it numerous times. Or we should do this, or we should get this artist to do something. At the time, I was pretty closed-minded, and I wonder how many great ideas I passed up just for him to excellently execute them on his own.
Right.
You know, so, yeah, you know, I've learned to be a lot more open-minded about any suggestion that comes in. So I might say no at first, but then I'm all ears after that.
Right.
Got to get in the obligatory opening salvo. No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Listen. Okay,
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I had to get that out of my system. Now that I've got the no out, okay, I'm ready. Yeah, and that's something we talked about on the last podcast too, is like you can see that. Like otherwise, you know, if you hadn't become more open-minded about things, you'd probably still be making 2 and 4 knobbers.
Oh yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, you know,
yeah.
And now I'm got this loomer sitting behind me, and I'm like,
hey man, that's
super
another
jazzed.
example of me almost going no. And the guys at the shop will be laughing. They're like, almost no. It was full-fledged no. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So here's the shoegaze thing, and Michael from Schecter Guitars. Well, first it goes back a little bit more. Daniel Tyak of Salvage Custom Pedal Boards. He was like, hey, we need to have something called a fuzz verb. And then so as kind of a joke, we made, you know, 10, 20 fuzz verbs. And then we called it the Sojourner, and it was, you know, fuzz and reverb and stuff like that. Then Michael, from the president of Schecter Guitars, had an idea for a shoegaze pedal, and then we took our dark side platform, rearranged it for the loomer, and a custom unit for him that was pretty cool. It had his daughter's hand on there.
Nice.
It was really kind of cool. And so we sold the first batch to Chicago Music Exchange, and I was like, man, I just don't know if I feel this. I don't know if my customers, our typical Keeley customers, are going to get into this thing. And I said, let's not put them up for sale, really. Let's just let Chicago do them. Let's not send them to Europe. Let's not do anything like that. They come back week after week. Eventually, make a long story short, it ended up being, I think, the most popular pedal for Chicago Music Exchange over Black Friday. And I was like, wow. And then dealers in Europe were finally allowed to order them. I'm like, you know, it's an unexpected thing where I said no first because I just didn't get the sounds or the excitement, but you know, now it's really taken off. Yeah,
well, it's some of the thing too is I can't remember who I was talking with about it, specifically about the loomer, and they were like, Man, can you even fathom that the guys in My Bloody Valentine thought that they would have inspired an effects pedal? Probably not.
Right.
Like, in all reality. Excuse me. But, you know, the truth is they've got thousands of fans that chase those kind of sounds.
Yeah.
So...
And kind of like our other artist series, you know, we have the Dark Side and we have the Monterey and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
These are kind of interpretations. There's no way you can accomplish, like, you know, that huge pedal board Kevin has or whatever.
Right.
With just a simple one box.
Mm-hmm.
But this is meant to be inspired by. So we have, you know, something I'm really proud of our DSP guy Aaron Tackett doing is he's got that reverb and that pitch bending. It's dynamic. And the harder you strum it, you know, then it sounds like you're pushing down on your trem bar and stuff like that. And that soft focus reverb, that's another thing he's kind of famous for. And so putting those things together, so I thought it was kind of cool.
Right. I was playing it at NAMM, and of course it's at NAMM, but it was that right before you were out getting t-shirts in the rain. And I was there playing. I talked about this on an episode here just a little while ago, but it was kind of a weird experience for me because I was like, man, I'm just loving this pedal right now, and I'm not really paying any attention. I'm just kind of digging in, and I look up a little bit later, and there's like 4 guys like sitting there watching me. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm not a very good guitar player, so I'm like, all of a sudden got super self-conscious. I was like, oh, okay. And then another guy come up, and he was like, hey, I want to try I can't remember which one it was. I want to try that, or show me what that sounds like. I'm like, I'm not the demo guy. Yeah. Like, I'm just a pedal nerd. Like, and he's like, I'll just plug it in and see. It was one of your overdrives, and then one of your guys come over and it does this, and he was explaining, and he's like, yeah, go ahead and show him what it sounds like. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I guess I'll fumble around here. Man, it was kind of a funny experience. But the loomer, the point is, the loomer drew me in so much, and I just had a little bit of verb on it, like. And I was just really getting wild with the fuzz in the modulation section, and I was like, I got to get one of these.
So we got it here for you.
Yeah,
the fun thing is, of course, it does the effects order switching. So if you want to just do something really unconventional and put the reverb before the fuzz, which does lead to some really cool sounds.
Oh, yes.
You know, so you can do that. And then I brought the Bubbletron, which is another exciting piece for us because I'm a big Zappa fan. So having a dynamic phaser, one that your pick attack triggers it, and a dynamic flange where, you know, the envelope of your playing starts up the flange cycle, and of course the sample and hold, like that Oberheim or that Maestro, you know, sample and hold thing, and so that Bubbletron is pretty unique, and the stuff in the loomer, the reverbs in the loomer, you know, weren't out before, and so. Lastly, that hook reverb has got this cool fugue setting, which is just it's really weird. You know, I like putting a compressor after it to keep it kind of tame so I can play harder, but then keep the output consistent. But that was a great creative burst from our shop. You know, Aaron Tackett and Creighton getting all the design stuff and boards laid out. So, yeah, at the end of last year, man, we just had a blast putting those things out.
I think they've been well received too. I think I've heard those 3 were the ones that were some of the ones I was most excited to try. So I was really excited that you brought those over.
It's fantastic because it took us a long time to get a spring reverb out, one that jangled the right way, one that had the, you know, clangings and the reflections. And the hard thing for us to understand was how many reflections it takes to make a good spring reverb, so you get all the springs. It's not just 6 or something, you know. Maybe when you get to 28 reflections or something that, then it starts to take on the characteristics and the sproing, if you will, of a spring reverb. Then we started modeling the different tube sections of a Fender Blackface, threw that in there, and then my buddy Eddie Heitzelman, who's got a CD and a CD release party this weekend.
Nice.
He's a big Lonnie Mac fan, and so he wanted us to do the pitch bending vibrato and reverb of like a magnetone or something, right?
Right.
And so we threw that in there too. So it's all kinds of fun, man.
That's awesome. It's. I just had a funny thought while you were talking about recreating the spring. It's like a spring was originally trying to recreate a space.
Mm-hmm.
And we as guitar players, started craving the specific spring sound after hearing our favorite artists use it for different things, Surf Guys and whatever.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking with things like all the crazy pedals that are coming out now, and I wonder if we're going to get to a point where things that we didn't think people would be like, I'm not sure what the word is. Like things that were a compromise, design-wise, just because it's as good as it could be with the technology, will become something that's embraced later down the road. And like, we got to recreate that exact whatever. I can't even think of a good example. Like something kind of like what we look at analog delays. Trying to get analog flavored digital delays and things like that. I wonder what the next weird thing is that we try to recreate.
What's kind of fun is that. Some of the chips that we use now, and the chips that are available, have a drag and drop type design environment, a real easy to understand or easy to lay out graphical user interface that allows you to literally take a delay chip that looks like a bucket brigade and put it up there, and an analog delay, right, and then put chorus in the loop, and then you just wire it with your mouse. And then you wire a input jack and an output jack to it, and you can literally, with there's a program called like SpinCat, and Analog Devices has their version of something for their processors, but you literally can kind of drag and drop and just wire your imagination in there. So it's not very efficient code, but you can like, hey, what happens if I put 2 chorus engines? Or an envelope thing, or a filter here and a filter there, and you can kind of listen to it as long as it doesn't explode the number of code lines available. But so you can
like try things and then perfect them after if it even works.
Yeah, we don't use that right now because it doesn't write code that's very easy for us to then put on a diet and pack into the chip. But it's a very kind of a primitive way that it writes the code. But for a lot of people that say, man, I don't have all those coding skills yet, but I heard that I can drag and drop stuff, it would be very cool, And so when you say that, now you've removed some of the programming expertise. So now people can use their imaginations that might not have been able to either do the analog circuits or maybe the DSP coding. So now that's removed. And so I think as the processors get, of course, faster and faster and sound better and better, and you'll be able to drag and drop other modules that say tube amp simulation or this thing, and people just create more and more patches. So I'm always looking forward to digital being better and better, and watching it every couple of years make it easier for me too is a great thing. I mean, I enjoy it so much because it allows us to use our imagination in a way that's much faster than trying to develop an analog circuit. There's still things we only do analog. Our fuzz, our wolf fuzz, right? Our super fuzz. There's no digital part to any of those things. Those are just great as they are.
Yeah, we talked about that too, and I think you and Wampler are both kind of on the same page. Like, yeah, we could pour a bunch of effort into trying to recreate a digital drive or a fuzz or something, but it sounds so good analog, and we already know how to do it. Why would you go that way at this point?
And it's not that hard to manipulate those particular circuits. So, but getting a dynamically based envelope and flange filter or doing a tri-chorus usually takes a rack, and we've, in 6 months we can do one in a digital environment. It's that fits in the circuit's the same size as any of our reverb pedals.
Right.
It's just 2 inches by 3.5 inches or something instead of a big rack unit. So to me, it's a lot of fun.
Right.
It's all how you filter. Our DSP stuff, I think, sounds good in my opinion, or sounds better than some other folks, or maybe even some of the rack mount stuff in the past with less power. Is that we pay a lot of attention to filtering. So instead of saying, "Oh man, ours does 16K or ours does 20K," I'm like, we start rounding ours off at the same thing this vintage Alnico speaker is, or we're rounding it off at 3K, 4K, something really low. And that takes out a lot of the digital type areas where they can get harsh. So
Gotcha.
we just filter the heck out of it so that it sounds pleasant.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is as much as everything's gotten better, there are still digital delays that are, and sometimes it's intentional, but like if there are some digital delays, I'm like, that is too bright. Like I don't want that, and it's too, it's not pleasing to the ear. So that's interesting. That's the approach you take.
Oh yeah, I think just about everything we have is severely rolled off and at the speaker limit.
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6K is most everything. There might be some reasons why we'd have some reverbs or something out there that might have an 8K roll off.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But otherwise, we usually try to chop it off pretty early and make sure we're not missing any harmonics or anything.
Right.
But otherwise, the rest of it's garbage. For the most part.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, what we were talking about with the digital stuff and how much faster and more efficient it is to design something that way, that puts into perspective how much even more impressive how Chase Bliss and Joel Cordy's work.
Oh yeah.
It's like, it's mind-blowing sometimes.
It is mind-blowing from my perspective as well. He's got a lot of vision and he's got a lot of skills that he combines together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know exactly how he has the pedal set up, but it makes it seem pretty clear that he has the analog circuits controlled by some sort of microcontroller.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's implementing the MIDI stuff, and there's no slack work in his case.
No,
his case is a masterpiece
Mm-hmm.
in cutting out all those holes, and there's even the printing on it's in dual color on all sides, and they're like, there's 3 boards in there, and everything is precision, and then the case, and then the case contents, and the instruction.
It's like, it's crazy.
He's definitely an overachiever.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
He's also one of the nicest human beings I've ever spoke with.
Absolutely.
But, that's interesting.
Man, there's something else I wanted to mention. The reason I'm up here is Pro Guitar Shops, the owner of Pro Guitar Shops, Aaron Miller, passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, what a great opportunity to not only see those folks who helped define the way that pedals are sold with the product demonstration videos that Andy and Aaron Miller came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Not only would I think it was fun to say hi to them, but all the other Portland companies that I hear about or made aware of. So it's kind of a cool thing. There's a little celebration of Aaron Miller's life tonight at some bar or club or I can't remember what. I should know better. But and so it was really nice because I got to meet those folks. I got to meet, of course, see Jack DeVille again and meet Chris Benson, and so it's been a really fun trip up here. And it was even sunny yesterday.
I know, it was so nice. It was like, man, you picked a good day.
Yeah.
It's I wish it could have been under a little bit, somewhat happier. I mean, happy to see all the folks, but somewhat happier circumstances. But I mentioned this on another podcast already, is I never met Aaron. I know some of the other guys over there, Tom and some of the other guys, but their kind of concept for how pedals are sold these days is part of what made me in the position that I'm in. I would have probably not quite got that interested in it if I had not stumbled across the first Andy demo that I seen.
Oh, yeah.
That just I was already interested because I was trolling through forums and all that stuff, but that just took it to a whole nother level of nerdery for me. Oh, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if I hadn't got so nerdy on gear. It probably would never have happened.
That's how I felt looking at those the recording booths that Andy has, and seeing Andy actually move in 3D, for the first time. He's got legs.
Right.
Did you know that?
Right.
And so I had dinner with him and Tom Keeley yesterday. It was just awesome, and to get to know him and stuff and see him outside, him, kicking butt on those pedals. And of course, I asked probably the same thing so many other people wonder is, if he gets about a pedal a day, right? How does he keep the energy level up and the enthusiasm up and the excitement?
I know. But
he told me he dives into each pedal and gets inspired by each one, and I think it's really nice having a guy that can do that over and over again and over again. maybe 2,000 videos, right?
Oh, yeah.
So very, very cool.
Yeah, to be able to maintain that level of enthusiasm for something like that. And I understand the burnout, and I don't even do that. Like, I'll obviously record a podcast, and so therefore I listen to a lot of podcasts. I try to catch most of the gear ones, because that's what I really like. But there are some times, like yesterday in particular, it was like, I'm gonna drive home, and I'm gonna listen to a podcast, and it was like, I don't want to listen to a guitar one right now. Yeah. I'm gonna listen to something else. So like I needed to, as much as I love guitar, obviously.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to unplug from the guitar for just a little bit, you know, because when that's all you do, anything, even things that you really enjoy, can drain on you a little bit.
Oh, sure. That's where the cooking comes in for me, right? Because it's like, when I come home from work, I'm like, okay, I'll do this to unwind. It's fun. You know, it's a totally different field. And then, actually, in the same breath, it's very similar, because it's like I get to improvise. I get to, you know, recipes are like engineering or schematic. So, you know, you get to build from and then improvise on them. So it's kind of like a jam session in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, I'm not nearly at the level in the kitchen that you are, but I do the one thing that I feel like I'm really good at food wise is I can make a good brisket.
That's cool.
And we joked about it before. It was like, if you ever come down, I'm going to cook you a brisket. But then everything just happened so fast. I told my wife, I was like, I need to get a brisket. Rob's coming over. And then it was like, it's too late. I should have had to started it right now at midnight last night in order to get it done.
The secret with that is a heavy dose of patience and time.
Oh, yeah.
Getting it just right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, yep, the folks at look at another, company is just as influential as any pedal company. PGS, now that I think about it.
That's true.
I mean, that's a killer way to look at it. That there's not a video team out in LA doing it or New York doing it or anything like that. It's a Portland experience. It's a manifestation of all those people and these guitar players. So it's quite an environment up here. Pretty cool.
There definitely, I think, there's a vibe to it. I don't know what it is. Like you said, I don't know if it's in the water or what the deal is, but I feel like there is something to just the atmosphere and just the kind of people that live here. It just I could never leave. I don't think. I would not. I mean, I have no reason to want to, but I can't. It's like, where else would I go? There's nowhere else like this.
Exactly.
Like Seattle maybe kind of has a similar vibe, but still, I think Portland's got its own thing, and I'm glad to have basically lived around here my entire life. So
yeah, I mean, there's not too many places you can go that have shops like Old Town, right? It's not that it's necessarily super, super huge, but it's got everything that I was interested in. And showed me new stuff, and like 8 display cases of pedals, and vintage Gibsons over here, and cool brand new, were they built guitars, BILT?
Yep.
I mean, is that from Portland too?
No, they're not from Portland, but there was a bunch of Saul Cole guitars in there.
Yeah, there sure was.
He's from Portland. I'm just thinking, there's more than just pedal companies. We got Saul Cole making amazing guitars. Benson's doing amps. Just across the river in Vancouver, Veritas Guitars is over there making crazy stuff. And it's just, there's something to this area. I don't know. I don't know what kind of magic it is, but if we could bottle it and sell it, then that would probably be good.
I think I always like to joke that pedals are the perfect safe place for out-of-work guitar players.
That sounds about right.
It's like, better than holding up a liquor store, and it can feed a family, so
there you
go. So I think it's you get the right population of out-of-work musicians, and you got a lot of pedal companies.
That could be what you would think there would be more in Nashville then.
Right. Well, actually, I bet you we'll get a bunch of email on that too. There's probably a huge dose of.
There's a lot of. I can't think of just a ton of pedal companies, but there is a lot of gear companies in Nashville.
Yeah,
lots of them.
Tons.
So, but it's fun. But I got some stuff that I talked to you about that I don't want recorded. So.
Okay. That's what's been fun, though, dude.
It is.
Great.
Thanks for coming by, Rob.
You bet, bud.
That's going to do it for today, folks. Big thanks to all of the sponsors this week, Sinusoid and the Sound Parcel. Make sure and check those guys out. Those are what keep the show humming, is the sponsors. So show them some love. And I just wanted to drop this on you. If you're listening the day this episode drops, which should be on a Monday, 3/6 of 2017, then you might want to head over to tonemob.com/store because there is a new collaboration up with Spruce Effects, and it might even be gone by now, who knows. But you're going to want to check this out. It's a fuzz/trem. It's a 2-in-1, and I won't give you all of the details, but it sounds great, and it has a lot of functionality, and there's a great demo by none other than Mr. J. Leonard J. himself up at tonemob.com/store, and keep it fuzzy. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.